Hello and welcome to this episode of RPGGamer Top 5s, and this time we'd like to take a look at the top 5 Star Wars video games which came out in the 2000s. The 2000s were an amazing time for Star Wars games, and this has been the most difficult of the lists to do, as every time we thought we'd finished and began to render the video, we'd remember we'd forgotten something. So, apologies to lovers of Empire at War, Starfighter, Rogue Squadron 2 and 3, and many others. We just remembered them too late. But, if they didn't pop into our minds, maybe they're just not memorable enough to get a spot on the list. Anyway, with that bombshell, let's get on with the list. At number 5, The Force Unleashed for Windows in 2008. The Force Unleashed bridges the first two Star Wars trilogies, acting as an origin story for both the United Rebel Alliance and the Galactic Civil War depicted in the original trilogy. The game introduces a new protagonist, Starkiller, as Darth Vader's secret apprentice, who is tasked with hunting down Jedi while killing rebels and Imperials alike in order to hide his existence from the Emperor, but soon starts to slowly redeem himself to the light side. The Force Unleashed is a third-person action game, in which the player character's weapons are the Force and a lightsaber. The game has a combo system for stringing lightsaber attacks together, or for combining lightsaber attacks with Force powers. Experience points earned by killing enemies and finding artifacts can be used to increase Starkiller's powers and traits. The gameplay is intended to be easy to learn. Players can casually run and gun through the game, but the game rewards those who take a stealthy, more tactical approach. The game includes enemies that are easy to overcome. Game difficulty arises from presenting those enemies in large numbers that can wear down the player character. Additionally, enemies learn from the player character's attacks. Using the same attack on different characters can sometimes lead to the player character doing less damage. The enemies, which number over 50, have various strengths and weaknesses. Developers face the difficulty of effectively placing them throughout the game's varied environments. The Wii version uses the Wii Remote to execute lightsaber attacks, and the Nunchuck to wield Force powers. It allows two players to fight each other as any one of a varied amount of Jedi and Sith from the Star Wars universe, in one-on-one multiplayer duels. At number 4, Galactic Battlegrounds, for Windows in 2001. Galactic Battlegrounds is a real-time strategy game, built on the Genie engine, the same one as used in Age of Empires and Age of Empires 2. And the game plays very much like Age of Empires with Star Wars graphics, which is no bad thing. You can play as one of a selection of original trilogy or prequel factions, such as the Galactic Empire, Rebel Alliance, Trade Federation, Separatists, Wookiees, Gungans, Naboo, and Old Republic, each of which have their own advantages and disadvantages, such as the Trade Federation ignoring housing needs for workers, or the Gungan buildings that can heal themselves, and they can build shelters underwater. As well, each faction has its own special units, like the Imperial AT-AT Walkers or Republic Jedi Starfighters. The player starts the game with a command center, a scout, and 3 workers in a normal game map, for whichever of the factions they choose. The player searches and gathers resources such as food, carbon, nova crystals and ore, and then uses the resources in order to create new buildings, units, workers and so on. Food is used for low-end units and troopers. Carbon is used in place of wood in Age of Empires 2 for buildings and artillery. Nova crystals create the more high-end units and can be gathered through getting special holocrons, which were relics in Age of Empires 2. Ore is used for defensive structures, as well as the Gungan unique unit, the Famba. The player can build the different units at separate buildings designed specifically for those types of units. The player can advance through the 4 tech levels by paying a certain amount of resources. When a player advances a tech level, more units, buildings and upgrades become available. I've played far too much of this game over the years, and still use fan-made updates to play it even today. There's something quite relaxed about building your massive base and a huge army, and marching on your enemy to obliterate them entirely. At number 3, the Jedi Knight series, for Windows, Mac, Xbox and GameCube. Starting with Jedi Knight 2 Jedi Outcast in 2002. Jedi Outcast is a first and third person action game in the Star Wars Jedi Knight series. The game features both single player and multiplayer modes. The story-driven single player campaign is set in the Star Wars Expanded Universe 2 years after the events and mysteries of the Sith. The plot follows Kyle Katarn as he fights against the Dark Jedi Dasan and his followers, and is set somewhat around Luke Skywalker's Jedi Academy on Yavin 4. Jedi Outcast allows the player to wield a variety of firearms from the Star Wars franchise, as well as lightsabers and force powers. The player can choose whether to use first or third person perspective for each weapon, including the lightsaber. Combat is standard for the shooter genre, offering players an array of energy and projectile weapons, plus a variety of explosives. Players have health and shield meters, each of which is replenished separately. Jedi Outcast places a strong emphasis on lightsaber combat. As in the films, lightsabers can be used to deflect shots from blasters. The game offers 3 lightsaber styles, fast, medium and strong, with each style differing from the others in terms of the speed of attacks and damage dealt. There are also a number of combos, many of which are unique to the selected saber styles. Play is similar to Jedi Knight, but obviously graphics are much improved, leading to this being a far superior game to its predecessor. Jedi Knight Jedi Academy in 2003. Released just a year after Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy is a fairly similar game. But in a feature new to the series, the player can modify the character's gender and appearance, and can construct a lightsaber by choosing the hilt style and blade colour. In single player mode, the player takes control of the character Jaden Korr, a student at the Jedi Academy under the tutelage of Kyle Katarn. The player must complete various missions assigned to them by Katarn and Luke Skywalker. With slightly improved gameplay, Jedi Academy is, in our opinion, a much more fun game. But much of this is down to being able to design your own version of Jaden Korr and your own lightsaber. Whether you're playing a double-bladed lightsaber-wielding male Keldor version of Jaden, or a twin lightsaber-wielding female Twilight version of Jaden, this simple amount of choice makes you connect with your character in a far more role-playing game kind of way. There is also a choice in which order missions are approached in the game, which avoids the problem many in this style of game, of getting stuck at a particularly hard battle or tricky jump, and giving up out of frustration. Jedi Academy lets you just try a different mission and come back to this one later. At number 2, the LEGO Star Wars series for Windows, PlayStation 2, Xbox, Xbox 360, GameCube and Mac. Starting with LEGO Star Wars the video game in 2005. LEGO Star Wars the video game is a LEGO-themed action-adventure game based on the LEGO Star Wars line of toys. Gameplay in LEGO Star Wars is geared towards family play, and does not feature a game over scenario. Given a specific set of characters in each scenario, based on a scene from each of the movies, up to 2 players can control them, using their different abilities. By walking up to another friendly character, the player can switch control over to that character. This interaction is necessary in order to use another character's abilities, or complete certain puzzles. LEGO studs can be collected by finding them, smashing or using the force on certain objects, or defeating enemies. Players lose studs, as opposed to lives, if their character is destroyed. These studs can then be spent on unlocking new players for free play mode. Certain segments of the game feature players controlling spaceships flying on a flat plane. There are also several mini canisters hidden throughout each level that, when collected, combine to form a vehicle. When the player first starts the game, they must first complete Chapter 1 of The Phantom Menace, Negotiations. However, once that chapter is completed, the player may choose to play any unlocked levels from the other 2 movies in their desired order. LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy in 2006. This game follows the events of the Star Wars films Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. The game allows players to assume the roles of over 50 LEGO versions of characters from the film series. Customized characters can also be created. Character movement was improved from its predecessor LEGO Star Wars the video game, and the concept of vehicle levels was also explored more thoroughly. LEGO Star Wars 2's gameplay is from a third-person perspective and takes place in a 3D game world that contains objects, environments and characters designed to resemble LEGO pieces. Its gameplay is a combination of the action-adventure, platform and sometimes puzzle genres. The game's central location is the Mos Eisley Cantina, a spaceport bar on the planet Tatooine. At the counter, the player may use their LEGO studs to purchase characters, vehicles, gameplay hints and extras, or activate cheat codes. In a small area outside the cantina, the player may view collected vehicles. The game is broken into levels, which are accessed from the cantina. Each film is represented by 6 levels, representing key locations and scenes in that film. The locations include Hoth, Bespin, Dagobah, Tatooine, and the Death Star and Endor. Both are amazingly fun games, but which is better? Well, we love the original more, and its original fresh approach to gaming makes it our favourite. But since the gameplay was refined throughout the series, new players should probably play the latest games in the series, as they won't have the nostalgia that we have for the original. Notable mentions: the Battlefront series for PlayStation 2, Windows, Xbox and Mac. Starting with Star Wars Battlefront in 2004. Star Wars Battlefront is a first and third person shooter game, and gameplay is conquest based. Each faction has a finite amount of reinforcements, and each is given control of a set number of command posts in each given level. The object is to either eliminate enemy forces or capture and hold all command posts simultaneously for 20 seconds. Several ground and air vehicles are available on the battlefield. These range from the hulking AT-AT to the fast speeder bike, and vary based on the level. There are more than 25 vehicles in-game, with some of the larger vehicles also functioning as mobile command posts which cannot be captured, but are lost if the vehicle is destroyed. In addition, some maps have indigenous forces. These can be neutral to both factions, such as Jawas, hostile to one faction, such as the Wookiees, or hostile to both factions, such as Tusken Raiders. Command posts belonging to hostile natives can also be captured to minimize their presence. Star Wars Battlefront 2 in 2005. Battlefront 2 features new vehicles, characters, game mechanics, maps, and missions compared to the original Battlefront. Unlike its predecessor, Battlefront 2 features a more narrative-based campaign, retelling portions of the Star Wars story from the point of view of a veteran Imperial Stormtrooper, reminiscing about his tour of duty in service of both the Galactic Republic and as part of the Galactic Empire. Gameplay additions of Battlefront include the use of Jedi, additional game modes such as Hero Assault, and objective-based space battles. Battlefront 2 is fundamentally similar to its predecessor, albeit with the addition of new gameplay mechanics. The general objective in most missions is to eliminate the enemy faction. Like its predecessor Star Wars Battlefront, the game is split into two eras: the Clone Wars, with battles taking place between the Galactic Republic and the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and the Galactic Civil War, where battles between the Rebel Alliance and Galactic Empire take place. But which is better? The simple answer is Battlefront 2, which takes every element of Battlefront and improves upon it, adding new and interesting gameplay elements like the space battles and the addition of heroes, which make it a far more fun and a much longer lasting game than the first one. Republic Commando for Xbox and Windows in 2005. Republic Commando is a tactical first-person shooter game. The game is set during the events of the Clone Wars that started at the climax of the movie Star Wars Episode II: Attack of the Clones. In the game, the player takes command of a clone commando team, made up of elite clone troopers. These clone commandos have been specially bred at the clone factories on Commando. The commando team travels to various locations in the Star Wars universe, including Kashyyyk, Geonosis, and the derelict spacecraft Prosecutor. About 2 years pass from Delta Squad's first mission to the end of the game. Republic Commando maintains a first-person perspective throughout the game, presenting the story from the eyes of Delta Squad squad leader RC-1138, Boss. His squad mates include RC-1162 Scorch, a talkative explosives expert, RC-1140 Fixer, a skilled hacker and dedicated soldier, and RC-1107 Sev, the squad sniper who enjoys racking up kills. Information is received via radio commands from a clone officer, referred to as Advisor, and a text-based objective list with a pop-up objective tracker arrow that points the player towards the next objective. Republic Commando is a great shooter, and has been praised by critics for giving players one of the most enjoyable Star Wars experiences ever, despite its lack of Jedi. But its single-player campaign is short, and the multiplayer is a bit lacking, which is why it never made our main list. Star Wars Galaxies for Windows in 2003. Star Wars Galaxies was a Star Wars-themed, massively multiplayer online role-playing game developed by Sony Online Entertainment. The servers were shut down on December 15, 2011. Although private emulator projects still allow players to experience Star Wars Galaxies in different incarnations of the game's existence. The game launched with 10 planets: Tatooine, Naboo, Corellia, Talos, Rory, Dantooine, Locke, Yavin 4, the Forest Moon of Endor, and Dathomir. In the second expansion, Rage of the Wookiees, the Wookiee home planet Kashyyyk was added. In the third expansion, Trials of Obi-Wan, the planet Mustafar was added. Each of the original 10 planets was represented by approximately 225 square kilometers of game space. Choosing between the species of human Twi'lek, Zabrak, Wookiee, Trandoshan, Rodian, Mon Calamari, Bothan, Sulistan, and Ithorian. And you could choose between different professions such as Jedi, Bounty Hunter, Smuggler, Commando, Spy, Officer, Medic, Entertainer, and Trader. The history of Star Wars Galaxies was marred by controversies, however, with the game being criticised because players who wished to play a Jedi character had to first unlock their Jedi slot by fulfilling an unknown list of criteria. Players criticised the developers for the substantial time commitment to unlock a Jedi in the first place, penalties for in-game death of a Jedi character which was permanent after 3 deaths, monotonous gameplay required to acquire the Jedi character. Then media outlets criticised the changes of the combat upgrade, while subscription cancellations rose. After the new game enhancements were implemented in November 2005, sparking huge demonstrations in-game from the majority of players, various media outlets criticised the reduced depth and complexity of the game. And at number 1, the Knights of the Old Republic series for Windows, Xbox and Mac. Starting with Knights of the Old Republic in 2003. Could the top position really go to anything else? Knights of the Old Republic, sometimes simply known as KOTOR, is a role-playing video game. The story of Knights of the Old Republic takes place almost 4,000 years before the formation of the Galactic Empire, where Darth Malak, a Dark Lord of the Sith, has unleashed a Sith armada against the Republic. The player character, as a Jedi, must venture to different planets in the galaxy in order to defeat Malak. Players choose from 3 different character classes and customise their characters at the beginning of the game, and engage in round-based combat against enemies. Through interacting with other characters and making plot decisions, the alignment system will determine whether the player character aligns with the light or dark side of the Force. Based on the D20 version of the tabletop RPG by Wizards of the Coast, KOTOR is seen as an absolute classic by most, with a plot that is considered superior to many of the more recent movies, especially considering the big reveal towards the end of the game, which is generally seen to be as well done as I Am Your Father. As well as brilliant voice acting, storytelling, involving gameplay, although it does sometimes come down to just a bit of button bashing, and settings, I must make mention of the environments, which were especially immersive for the time, as grass waves in the wind, dust blows across the desert, and your footsteps cause puffs of sand to rise as you explore underwater. Followed by Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords in 2005. Knights of the Old Republic 2 starts 5 years after the events of the first game, and follows the story of the Exile, a Jedi Knight who was exiled from the Jedi Order. During this time, the Jedi Order has become almost completely wiped out by the Sith. The game begins with the protagonist waking up from unconsciousness on an asteroid mining facility. After he or she escapes with the help of their party members, they find the person who has exiled them 10 years ago, who sends the protagonist on a mission to seek out the remaining Jedi to fight against the Sith. KOTOR 2 suffered from being rushed out, and much content was cut from the final game, making some plotlines abruptly end or lead nowhere. By the time of its release, the graphics looked a little dated. However, the plot is superior to the first game, and the NPC interactions are greatly improved. A fan project to restore the lost content has managed a fantastic job, especially after much of the content was discovered on the game discs sitting just unused. So now it is possible to play a far more complete version of the game. So which is better? Well, we're actually stuck on this one. The original has that revelation, a massively involving plot of galactic war, and was complete on release. The Sith Lords, however, was a little disappointing on release, but with the cut content restored, is a far more involving game, with amazingly fleshed out characters. So, do we judge the games based on the original release, and KOTOR wins? Or do we judge the games based how they are now playable, and the Sith Lord wins? Well, we can't decide, so you let us know. Which one did you prefer? Or did you prefer something completely different from the 2000s? Anyway, that's it for our top 5 2000 Star Wars games. So what did you think? Did we miss some stone cold classics? Did we wimp out by not making a decision on KOTOR 1 or 2 to win? Let us know in the comments below, or by getting in touch through email or the website. So, as always, many thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like what we're doing. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and we'll catch you later. Bye.